In today's video, I'm going to show you how you can actually start creating artwork in Midjourney to sell on print-on-demand services so you can start making some passive income. Now, the process is pretty simple. I'm going to show you how I do it. It's not the only way to do it, but generally, I will create my image in Midjourney, and then I will upscale that and then upload to the print-on-demand site. Now, I have a process for that which uses Photoshop. If you don't have Photoshop, then I'll pop a few links below with different services you can use to upscale things and cut things out. Otherwise, this is the process I use and I highly recommend it. It seems to work for me anyway. So I'm in Midjourney and I'm going to create a prompt. Now, I'm going to basically type in something and we're going to choose something pretty quickly, but otherwise you want to spend some time working on and finding the image that you really want to use. So I'm going to say here, acute, and we're going to try that. So now you can see I've got some images and I basically need to choose one to upscale. And I'm using Midjourney version 4, but you want to upscale to the maximum resolution you can. But with version 4, I can only really upscale once. So I'm going to upscale this last image. If you're using the test algorithm or something like that, you can upscale even further and get a larger image. But this version 4 is a bit limited, but we'll work with what we get. So I've got my image and this is the one I'm going to use. I'm actually just going to click on it to bring up preview and then click open original. Once I have that original image, I'm going to right click and save the image to a folder. And then I'm going to upscale it. Now I can use something like imagelarger.com, but I'm going to use Adobe Photoshop. Now I'm going to summarize this process, but I'm going to cover more in depth in a video I'm going to link to in the description below, showing you different services and things you can use. But we're just going to sort of very briefly go over this process. And if you need more information, check out the link in the description and we'll be able to go more in depth there. Now, there's a few steps to this. I'm going to go into File, Open, to open up my image, and I now have it open. But the problem is it's a PNG, and I need to make it a JPEG so I can upscale it. So now I'm just simply going to go to File, Save a Copy, and I'm going to choose JPEG, and I'm just going to say dog image. I'm going to boost it up to full and click OK. Now I can close that image, and before we open it, I need to change a setting. I'm going to go into Edit, Preferences, over to Camera Raw. And where it says File Handling, I'm going to click on File Handling, and where it says JPEG, choose Automatically Open JPEG. I'm going to say Automatically Open All Supported JPEGs, and then click OK. So now when I open my JPEG, I will get the Camera Raw filter so I can upscale the image. So now I'll go to File, Open. I choose my dog image.jpg and it's open in the Camera Raw filter. So now I can actually go right click on this image and go to Enhance. It brings up this little window here, and if you move it around, you can see how it's adding detail as it enhances. So we're getting some pretty good results there. I'm going to click Enhance, and you see a second image pops up. If I click on that image, I can now see down here the size of it, 1024. 2048, so it's doubled the width and height of the image. I then go to open here. And now I have an image which is much larger that I can work with. But in order to maximize our print, we need to get this image even bigger. So I'm going to go up the top here to image and image size. And at the moment it's 2048 by 2048. I want to go triple. I'm going to go say 6500 by 6500. And it's not going to do a great job of upscaling just straight off the bat. But if we choose some options here, it's going to zoom out a little bit. If I choose automatic, it does an okay job at choosing something there. You can see how it sort of sharpens up the edge. I can go down and try a few of these until I find the one that looks the best. So bicubic smoother kind of just smooths it out and blurs it a bit, which is not bad, but we're going to do something a bit better than that later. Preserve details 2.0 kind of sharpens some of the edge a bit. In some areas are not quite as good. Preserve details enlargement sharpens it up. It adds a lot of artifacts. So we're going to go with preserve details 2. I recommend you choose this yourself. You can also reduce noise, play with that setting, but I reckon about here somewhere is probably not too bad. It's not going to be perfect, and we click OK. I zoom out, and you can see when I zoom in, some of this stuff is upscaled pretty well. Otherwise, we've got some artifacts here which aren't great, and we're going to try and fix those up. So now this is not going to be perfect, but it is going to be good enough for print so that when someone looks at the image and at least scrutinizes it, it looks nice and smooth. And sometimes you'll find this won't work with every image, but it does work with most AI art images, especially ones that kind of look like paintings. I'm going to go here to Filter, Stylize, Oil Paint. And if I just move around a bit, I might zoom out. You can see it kind of takes these artifacts around the nose here and just kind of smooths them out. Now we want to make sure the lighting is turned off. We don't worry about these two bottom sliders here, just focus on stylization and cleanliness. If I crank those up, you can see how it really smooths things out, but we lose a little bit too much detail in that process. But it depends on how far you want to go. You might like that style, but I'm going to say turn the stylization down a bit, and it sort of creates something a little less sort of stylized. You can see with the hairs here, if I crank this right up to full, it makes it really creates lines out of that. But I'm going to just bring it down because I want it to be somewhere in between. I just want to simply smooth out the artifacts. With cleanliness, I can crank that up and you can see how it cleans things up. But we'll bring it back until we find a happy medium where we still got some detail and it doesn't just simply look blurred. But I click OK. And now things are looking a bit cleaner when we zoom in. It's not great, but for a print, it will do the trick. Now the next step is, now I can just export this image if I'm happy with it and go with that. But for now, I want to cut this out. And again, if you have trouble with this, I will add a link in the description below showing you how to cut people and things out with the path tool. But for now, I'm going to go to Select, Subject, and it's selected our dog pretty well. However, it has missed a little bit down here where it's selected the background and not the foot. So I'm actually just going to get one of my selection tools here and just hold down Shift to quickly reselect the leg by going all the way around. And then I'm going to hold down Alt to shift. You can see a little minus symbol there before we had the plus symbol. And I'm just going to do a rough cutout of this. And I've got my dog cut out more or less. It's not perfect, but you get the idea. So now I'm actually going to double click on this layer over here to change it from background to layer 0. And then with that layer selected, go down to this box with a circle on it, click that to mask. So you can see how it's cut out our dog, and we can actually start to play with it a little bit. Now we can, again, simply export that and move from there, but you may also want to do a little bit more with the job itself. So I'm going to also copy this layer on the right here by clicking and dragging to the plus symbol. And then I'm actually going to just grab a box and sort of introduce some of the background just to kind of stylize things a little bit. So maybe something like that. And I'm going to click on this layer, and whatever's white will show, whatever's black will not. So what I want to do is I'm going to make sure if I wanted to activate more of the background, I could choose to have the white on the right hand side here, or I can click on the white right hand side and choose white. And I'm just going to hit delete. So now we've got some of our image, we've got a little bit sticking out, and that looks, now I want to add a little bit more info at the top. So I'm going to actually go to Image and Canvas Size. And I want to enlarge the size I'm working on. So I'm going to choose this dot down the bottom because I want the image to enlarge upwards. I'm going to make the height about 8,000 and click OK. So I've added about 20%, roughly. So now I have this image and a bit of info at the top here. So one thing, when you're doing print on demand, it can be good to add text, but anything you add could go on a white or a black background. So if you choose white text and someone buys a white shirt, that text is not going to show up. So generally you want something behind it so it shows up properly. So I'm actually going to just grab a box and drag it. I'm going to try and line it up a bit with this mask. And then I'm just going to deselect a little bit as well. And I'm just going to add a little bit of text here to make it fun. So I'm going to add in a new layer on the right here. I'm just going to simply fill that layer with, say, red. So I click this left icon, choose some red, paste it in there. And I can now go into the text over here and I can type something in. So warning, it's very small, so I'll enlarge it. I'm going to hit Control T or go Edit, Free Transform. And I've enlarged that text. The problem is it's now red, so if I pop it in there, it's not going to be seen. So I'm going to go up to here and click white. And maybe I decide I want to change it. I'm going to say danger. And then I'm just going to hit Control T again, or Edit, Free Transform. And to change this. And I'm going to hold down shift so I can change that size a little bit. I'll say danger, and then I'm going to click again. And every now and then you get this pop up. It's really annoying. Just click off, and when it shows up small like this, I just hold my mouse wheel, Alt and mouse wheel to zoom in, and type. Now I'm getting some funny results here. Dog knows karate. And I hold down Alt and my mouse wheel to zoom out. Again, Control T or Edit, Free Transform. And I move this information down here. Now, one of the cool things about cutting out images is if I go back over here to my layers, I can move this dog nose karate. I'm going to move this box here underneath the cutout, or the cutout above the box. So you can see on the right here the shape of the mask, because what's white shows and what's black doesn't. But now if I go back up and move my dog nose karate down, it's going to move down a little bit in between those two layers by clicking and dragging. It now sits behind the dog's head. And another thing I can do from there is simply create a new layer. I hold down Alt to link and clip this layer to that layer, and I can just add a little bit of an artificial shadow with my brush tool in black. I choose a brush size that is not too big. You can hit caps lock to turn that on or off, and I can draw a light shadow in here and then use my opacity of my layer to just sort of tone that down. And now I can zoom out. I hit the zoom tool, Alt, zoom out, and I've got a pretty cool image there. So I'm now going to use my selection tool to just select around as tight as I can. Then I go to Image and Crop. And now I have an image that's basically ready to upload. Now you notice that this is off center. One tip I will say is you do kind of want to get things reasonably centered, so that way you don't have to keep centering them when you upload to something like RedBubble. So I'm actually going to just select a bit tighter on the left and hit Image and Crop. And it's still a bit off center, so I'll go back in and adjust that with my canvas size. I choose the dot on the left, and I'm going to make it, say, 3800. And keep adjusting that until it looks relatively center. So that's not too bad. I'm going to move over, get an Image and Crop. So there's a bit there. Obviously, a little bit of Photoshop knowledge goes a long way with this, but I've got my image ready to go. So I'm going to save that as a PNG because I want to keep my transparent background. So I go to File, Save a Copy, and I save it as a PNG here. And I just click Save. Now, before we go ahead, I'm also going to create a copy which is just an image of the dog, because I want to show you a little bit of something when we get to the process. So I'm going to actually just click on this layer over here. I'm going to right click and go to, I'm going to right click on the blank part and go to Duplicate Layer here. I'm going to choose New Document, click OK. And then I'm going to right click on my mask and just delete the mask. So I'm right clicking on this box here to delete that mask. And then if I zoom out, I've got my dog here, and I'm just going to crop it pretty tightly there. Image, crop. And because there's no transparency, I can save this as a JPEG. So I go File, Save a Copy on my computer. And this time I'm going to choose JPEG. So now I've got two images, a PNG with a design and just a straight JPEG. Now you can choose to go to Zazzle, Spreadshirt, or any of these other places, but I'm going to go to RedBubble and go through the upload process and just show you some of the things you can do to maximize what you're doing with your AI artwork. So I'm on RedBubble, and all I'm going to do is start my upload. I'm going to go up the top here to my account and go Add New Work. Once that shows up, I can choose Upload New Artwork and choose my design, which is going to be this dog enhanced with the danger on it, and click Open. So now I have my image there and ready to go. And I can choose to actually add a background. So if I think this is going to look best on black, there are certain products which need a colored background. So I'm just going to choose to say go black or even like a dark gray. And I want to fill out this information here. If you know these languages, you can do this also, but we're just going to focus on English for now. So I want my image to be very keyword rich, so when people search for it, they can find it. If I knew the breed of the dog, I'd pop that in there, but for now I'm going to say cute puppy dog. Since we have the word puppy and dog in there, and cute, we can say in knows karate. And then we can also put in there danger if we want to keep that in there as well. Now what we want to do next is actually add tags. Tags is another area we can put in keywords for people to search. So I can actually copy all this information, paste it into my tags, and add commas between each word, and then add a few more words like martial arts. I can also add in karate styles, like say Kyokushin or Shotokan. I can type in gi, kimono, any other words I think go with it. And then anyone who searches those words, they could possibly find our picture. The description I'm actually not too concerned about, but I generally will copy the same keywords in there to keep the keywords rich. And I'll say danger. This cute puppy dog knows karate and is a lethal, I won't say lethal weapon because I don't want this to flag any kind of mature content such as violence. So I'm going to say is karate and knows martial arts. Martial arts itself, I don't think is mature content, but things like weaponry, violence, it actually is. Now, most of this stuff looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. When we get to this hat here, it kind of chops things off. I can click on that hat and adjust the position and scale it back. So it's actually not going to work too well on the hat, but I can kind of optimize it to the best I can and go from there. Now I can choose my default color, which I'm going to click apply, and I'm going to go to this shirt over here because maybe I want the default color to be red or blue or black. I can resize the image as well and even move it around if I decide that's necessary. And of course we can go through and you can center, do things like that. But once we're done, we can either hit apply changes or simply click on the next shirt to choose another default color. And you can actually go through and adjust all of these to suit. So if I click on this one, you'll notice if I zoom in, this design will actually pick the color I chose, but I can change the color on each design if I want to. But I want to make sure this isn't getting cut off. So I move that down, click apply changes, and you can see on the preview how it shows up. So some of these are not going to look very good, so we can just scale those back to fit. Another thing we can do, as mentioned before, is maybe I don't want to keep the text. Maybe I just want the image. I can click replace image just for this product. Choose my larger image that I created for, Untitled One. It will upload the image to that design. And now when I click on it, I can sort of adjust it down a bit, pop it in position, and click apply. Now you notice these are grayed out. They're actually disabled. I can go in and enable these as I want to, or disable. I don't think this is suitable for a phone. I can disable it if I want to, or I can enable it. I'm actually going to keep it on the phone and just enlarge it a little bit. You can see the camera's cutting off that, so I'm going to move it down a little until it looks like it's in a good position. And then I go through and continue to do that for the rest of the images and the rest of the products here. Again, making sure it fits. If anything looks okay despite cutting things off, I'm just going to leave it on there. But it all comes down to personal preference. You just want to get things lined up the way you want to. Now, this may not sell too well, being that it's not really applicable for a shirt. It's more of a pet thing. But just have a look at the preview for each one and make sure it aligns up and looks good. Swapping out images as needed. Disabling anything you don't want. There's a few different niche products down here. If you feel confident playing with those, I would, but that's probably a topic for another video. I'm going to disable it, and I choose, once I have that done, I can go back and review, make sure everything's looking good. I nearly always miss something, such as this water bottle. I've already missed that, so I apply that. And just make sure everything's looking good. And now once I'm done under media, I'm going to choose design. I'm going to say painting and mixed media, digital art. You can choose up to 2. Choose what suits your image the best. I generally leave this on optimize, and I leave this on anybody so anyone can buy it. But one important thing is if you have mature content, nudity or lingerie, adult language, alcohol, drugs, blood, guns, or violence. If I choose yes, in this case it's no. But if I choose yes, there are certain products that it doesn't work with. So there's pet, any of the dog mats, you can't use masks. There's a bunch of products you can't use with mature content. And I recommend checking out the guidelines because quite often I've uploaded, chosen this and missed something, and I had to go through the process all over again because RedBubble, for some reason, doesn't want to hold all the information I've given, which I think is pretty crummy, really. But hopefully they fix it in the future. Now, you want to make sure you have the right to sell this artwork. I click yes because I do, because Midjourney allows you to sell any of the work you create. But make sure you have full copyright, not just of the image, but any of the characters. If you do Mickey Mouse running around in a wrestling ring or something like that, then you don't have the copyright to sell Mickey Mouse images. So you need to make sure the characters you're using, you actually have copyright to. But I'm declaring I have the right to sell these products, so I'm going to click Save Work. And it's going to process. So now I can see all of the designs that have my image, and it's looking pretty good. Now, once again, I can review and make sure nothing's looking funny, but otherwise I'm pretty much good to go. And if there's one that I want to share in particular, so let's say I want to share this t-shirt, I can right click, copy the link, and then share it on social media or wherever I decide I want to put it. So that's pretty much it. It will take a little bit of time to show up on your, in the search results, things like that. You can always go to your account, view shop, and see what's there. At the moment, mine isn't there yet, but it will pop up soon enough. But that's pretty much the process I use. Obviously, depending on your knowledge in Photoshop and what you know, you will need to possibly improve and learn a bit more. Otherwise, also consider uploading these to many platforms. Like I said, Zazzle, RedBubble, etc. I'll pop some links in the description below for you to try out. Otherwise, I hope that was useful to you, showing you how to upscale and get the images large enough so that you can print them without them looking sort of too crummy. It's probably the main part of this, but it's just a nice process, and I found it works pretty well. And quite often you can get through pretty quick if you don't want to include any text. Some of these are pretty much all Midjourney images apart from this Santa Claus, which I actually drew. And a lot of these were just almost straight out of Midjourney and just cut out and slapped on there. Some of them even just being straight up images like this one and this one. Worked out pretty well. Otherwise, yeah, hope you liked the video. If you did, please consider giving a like. Otherwise, I hope to see you again soon. Have a great day.